All right, everyone, there's a few brand new Switch stories we got to talk about today, starting with a surprise Nintendo Switch game announcement that I don't think anybody was expecting or asking for, but the game actually looks decent, so we got to go over it here together. Then we also have to cover a very interesting interview that went live referencing some new gameplay mechanics that we could expect for the upcoming Sonic Frontiers, which will of course launch this year. And then the big talking point for today's video has to do with Retro Studios and the Metroid Prime series specifically, as there's some indication and talk online going back and forth suggesting that Metroid Prime 4 may be a lot further off than any of us were anticipating. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. As I mentioned, guys, we got a few different stories I want to cover today, and we got to kick it off with a brand new surprise out of left field game announcement that went live on Nintendo of America's Twitter earlier this morning, and this is for Cow the Kangaroo, which I personally, up to this point in time, had no clue was a series from back in the Dreamcast and Game Boy Advance era to begin with, and then it even got a sequel released, I believe, on the GameCube and PlayStation 2 in that console generation. So this is actually a somewhat established franchise. I don't know anything in terms of the sales for this game as time has gone on. Like, I don't know if it was a fan hit or not. To me, whenever they said Cow the Kangaroo is back, I was like, what do you mean he's back? Is he's not here for the first time? Because I had no clue this was a character and an established franchise. But regardless, we can expect him to get a new installment that will be multi-platform, but it's also coming to the Switch. It's coming to every platform though, essentially. Even Steam on the PC will have this game available, and it will be launched in summer of 2022. And I gotta say that I do think, because I am personally a fan of 3D action adventure platformers, which is what this is being described as, I think I may check this game out when it drops. It looks pretty good. The graphical fidelity definitely impressed me. Like, it doesn't look like a cheap project. It does look like the studio behind it is definitely taking their time and giving it some nice shine when it comes to the presentation. And I just thought that the gameplay looked pretty fluid and pretty nice. Definitely some Crash Bandicoot inspiration there, but it does appear to just be more of a 3D platformer open adventure type of game. So I think there's going to be at least a reason to look at this when it does come out. I don't believe there's been any discussion or information around what the price point of this game may launch at, but if it's not a full $60 title, if it launches at something like a $40 price point, I could absolutely see this as a day one pickup potentially, as I just don't think we see enough quality 3D platformers in the 2022 era and beyond. So I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below what you personally thought about this launch trailer. If you were like me and this was a surprise that this character is returning because you never heard of him from his original run, or if you're somebody who did remember him from the Dreamcast era or maybe the GameCube PS2 era. So please share all your thoughts and opinions on all things Cow the Kangaroo and this new iteration in the comments down below. Now, the next story we're talking about today has to do with Sonic Frontiers, as we do know this game is slated for a holiday release in 2022. I believe it's even leaked out there online that this will be a mid-November release, according to a PlayStation Store listing, which obviously that date could still change, but that's about in line with when we would expect this Sonic game to launch. And the reason it is in the news today is there was recently an interview that just went live with the series producer, and he goes over some discussion around how Sonic will be changing in his combat style more than we've probably seen up to this point in time. And if you guys know anything about me and have been around on the channel for a while, you'll know that I have been a long-term Sonic player. I got into it on the Sega Genesis games, which I still think are like the highlight of the series, even though Sonic Mania most recently had a fantastic game through and through, and it was definitely just a callback to that classic Sonic the Hedgehog 2D style formula. But obviously we've seen some good 3D installments in Sonic over the course of time, such as Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 and others. Even Sonic Colors especially the remastered edition that just came out, I highly recommend now that they've done the bug fixes to it. But we've definitely seen a lot of missteps for this series overall, and so when a new Sonic project gets announced, I always kind of go into it with like a coin toss mentality of maybe this will be a great installment or maybe it'll be one that I just skip altogether. And I will say that Frontiers, from what has been presented so far to us, it has me the most hyped for a new Sonic installment in years. I definitely think they're trying to overhaul the series and take it in an exciting new direction that it quite clearly needs to in this 3D era. So I do want to kick off this conversation by quickly hopping over to Nintendo Everything, where they have the exact interview transcribed and a breakdown of what this could mean for the future of Sonic Frontiers. Sega looking to take Sonic to the next level with Frontiers, new combat styles, and more. Sonic Team Creative Officer Takahashi Iizuka has spoke further about Sonic Frontiers as part of a new interview with Games Radar. There's still much to be learned about the game, even though it was technically first announced last May. At the Game Awards last month, Sega unveiled a proper teaser trailer. Iizuka had this to say about Sonic Frontiers. With Sonic Forces, the team set out to create a compilation of high-speed Sonic action games that flip the usual Sonic storyline on its head, taking place in a world where the evil Dr. Eggman had prevailed. With this new storyline and world, we created new Sonic environments and characters like the villain Infinite. With Sonic Frontiers, we are challenging ourselves to deliver an all-new style of Sonic action-adventure. We're once again expanding the Sonic universe, bringing in new environments and additional features to create a totally new type of open-zone experience. Iizuka also spoke about challenges of implementing Sonic's well-known speed and combat skills in open zone areas. We focus on bringing Sonic to the next level and ensuring he's still represented as the character that fans know and love, while still making his new form exciting. We pay extremely close attention to getting all of Sonic's details right to make sure that Sonic's signature speed and characteristics remain consistent across every gaming iteration. With Sonic Frontiers, we'll introduce new combat styles to bring Sonic's signature dexterity onto the battlefield, and the new exploration options obviously play into his iconic speedy nature. So while there's not a whole lot to take away from that article, the one thing, of course, that sticks out to me more than anything else is just the clear statement that we can expect Sonic to have an entirely new combat system, which I think is very needed for his 3D games to become more and more enjoyable. As you know, we have like the typical bounce and then lock onto an enemy and direct attack them to go ahead and kill out most of the enemies you come across. Like, that's normally how you do it. Or of course you have like your spin drill that you can just go super fast into the enemies and maybe take them out that way. But I think it's been too simplistic this entire time, especially in the era of games that we are now, and I would love to see some kind of full-fledged combat system for Sonic that actually unlocks new abilities as you go, and that maybe you could even level up these abilities, kind of pick like a skill tree path, similar to almost what we see in God of War games. Like, I'm open for a full overhaul of how Sonic participates in combat in these games, and I definitely hope that Sega doesn't hold back and really does take it far with, obviously, you know, they want to keep the signature Sonic feel still there, but it definitely needs to evolve over the course of time. So I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below what kind of combat system you would like to see implemented in something like this open zone Sonic game, where your hype levels are for Sonic Frontiers specifically, and whether or not you're planning on picking this up when it does release later this year in holiday 2022. So I do look forward to hearing from you guys on all things Sonic Frontiers in the comments down below. Now, the last story we're talking about today has to do with Retro Studios and Metroid Prime 4's development, as it is in the news today because there have been a couple new job listings spotted online that do call for new hires to specifically develop for Metroid Prime 4. And of course, this has a lot of the fan base talking and speculating that maybe this game is still truly very far out, as it has been roughly just over 3 years since this project was fully restarted. It's been 5 years since it was originally announced, if you guys can believe that. But of course, they got 2 years into the original development cycle. Nintendo was not happy with the direction it was going. They then scrapped that project, and we don't know if they scrapped everything or not, to be clear, but they definitely restarted from all accounts that we've heard so far, and they handed it to Retro Studios, which did develop the previous Prime games in the series 1 through 3, which are all incredible titles in my book. And if you know anything about me, you know I'm a huge hardcore Metroid fan, as it's just one of my top series of all time, period. And so I personally have my eyes on this Prime 4 development because I can't wait for the game to come out. That said, I would much rather wait longer for this game and have it be the top quality product that I know it can be, rather than have some kind of rush job and have the developers having to worry about getting the game out, and so maybe they can't create their entire vision that they wanted for the title. So I'm glad to see Nintendo treating this with respect and not making it rushed out. I mean, Nintendo is notorious for making sure that their first party studios and their first party games ship quality products, and I think we're going to see that with Prime 4. But before we dive into kind of the speculation conversation on when we might see this game actually release, I do want to quickly hop over to Nintendo Enthusiast, where they have the exact job titles written up and just a brief article on exactly what's taken place here with Metroid Prime 4 and what it means for really probably what the next Metroid Prime game, which will be Metroid Prime 1 Remake. So let's read through this together. Retro Studios is hiring for Metroid Prime 4. The 2 new positions posted today are for a tools engineer and a technology engineer. Unfortunately, there's not really much we can glean from the listings about Metroid Prime 4's development. It's all pretty standard stuff that doesn't go into detail about gameplay mechanics. In addition to these 2 jobs, Retro Studios is also hiring for several other positions, though they may not be for Metroid Prime 4. The full list of openings is as followed: concept artist, environment designer, material artist, character artist, user interface artist, user interface scripter, technology engineer, environment artist, environment terrain artist, and tools engineer. Officially, Metroid Prime 4 is the only project that we know Retro Studios is working on. However, it has been long rumored that they are also developing a remaster or remake of the first Metroid Prime. So while I personally don't think that just these Retro Studio job hirings indicate that Metroid Prime 4 is going through developmental issues, or it may be 3, 4, 5 years until we see it launch, like that's not where my mind goes when I still see new hirings take place. I think they do it all throughout the development of the game, and whenever you start to scale up a project, sometimes you don't bring people on at the beginning, you bring them on more towards the end, and so, you know, things like this are to be expected to come through the news. I do think it, however, makes a very interesting talking point, because more than anything, I have faith in Nintendo that they're just going to give this game the time that it needs to be a masterpiece project, as if you look at their other big franchises such as Mario or Zelda, specifically Zelda, can have a 5 or 6 year development cycle, and it's not uncommon at all at this point to see that happen, as we're seeing happen really with Breath of the Wild 2 up to this point. So in my humble opinion, I definitely think that Prime 4 is on the right track. I'm super pumped for it, and I definitely think it could be still more than a year, maybe even 2 years out. And if that is the case, do we see this game launch as something alongside it to sell the true next gen Switch or the next revision, whatever Nintendo has planned for the future for the platform? I can totally see that being a system seller that they want to launch day one, as I do think that Nintendo finally is taking Metroid more seriously. We know Dread is clearly on the track to be the best selling Metroid game of all time, and while that's not saying a whole lot in itself, it is saying a lot as a 2D action platformer and not a full 3D title like a lot of players will only pick up nowadays. So I think the fact that a 2D action platformer game can sell at $60 and be the best installment ever in the franchise says a lot about what Prime's future could hold, especially if they do it right with the Prime remake or remaster leading into Metroid Prime 4's launch. Like, I would love to see all 3 games ultimately come over. Maybe this is still Prime Trilogy, but it is heavily rumored and speculated that it will be a Prime 1 remake or remaster. Regardless of how they release these games, if they do the proper media marketing hype that they gave for Metroid Dread to these classic Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3 games and bring them over to the Switch eventually before the release of Metroid Prime 4, I think that we see Metroid Prime 4 really be in that conversation of a system seller title and hopefully takes Metroid to new heights that it's never been before. So I want to hear from you guys on your personal thoughts and opinions on this. When do you think we're getting Metroid Prime 4? What's your hype level for the project? And do you think that we will see something like the Prime 1 remake or remaster announced as soon as maybe the next direct, or at least by the summer direct? Because that's definitely what I'm expecting. I think we will get that game in the year of 2022, as it is Metroid Prime 1's 20th anniversary. So I look forward to hearing from you guys on all the different stories we talked about today in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Thanks so much for watching the video today, everyone. I do truly appreciate you all sticking around until the end. I do at this point in the video want to invite you all one more time to join Sunbro Nation if you haven't done so already. Do so by subscribing below, hit the like button on your way out if you enjoyed it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. That's going to do it for me, guys. I hope you all have a great day. Sunbro Nation, out.